One of the biggest game studios in Portugal isn't in Lisbon or in Porto. It is in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, in Azores. More specifically, in Angra do Heroísmo on Terceira Island. I'm talking, of course, about Redcatpig. And today, we will know more about them. So hello everyone, welcome back to the first DevTalk that we have here on the QUDO YouTube channel. And with me, we have today Marco Bettencourt, CEO and founder of Redcatpig. I'm gonna be a really good one. Is one of the breakouts, not on games, but actually on gaming studios, especially here in Portugal, and especially being on the inside Atlantic, not on the main cities here in Portugal, for Porto or Lisbon. It is in Azores. Marco Bettencourt, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I'm gonna allow you to introduce yourself and to tell me a little bit and tell us a little bit of your story here on the gaming development, and especially running a successful studio here in Azores.
Okay, well, thank you for the invite, Diogo. It's always a pleasure to have an informal conversation with you, such as the ones we had in the past in events that we got together. Okay, so my name is Marco. I'm the CEO and founder of Redcatpig, as Diogo said. So I founded the studio back in 2019 with the help of some business angels, and basically with the financial support to get this thing rolling. In terms of background, I've been always connected to IT, and I was always a bit, crazy. I didn't want to work for anyone. I wanted to do my own thing. In the beginning, it is tough. It's rough. But after banging my head on the wall a few times, I believe that we got in a position where everything paid off. And we finally can say that we are working on our dream job. We don't even feel that we are working, to be honest. We wake up in the morning and say, well, let's make games. And so I can say that's a dream that came true. But yeah, in terms of background, I think it's also interesting to say that, okay, I'm Portuguese, but for whoever speaks Portuguese will notice that my Portuguese has a Brazilian accent. But what happened was I was born in Azores, which I'm very proud of, and I moved to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, when I was 1 year old, right after the big earthquake that hit Terceira Island back in 1980. So my family migrated to Rio. I was only one. Then we came back to Terceira Island when I was already 15 and a half. And so the accent, it stuck with me. So I'm probably the weirdest Azorian person on earth, because yes, my Brazilian accent, it's a bit weird. But this is Marco.
Awesome. Yeah, actually that was new to me. I always assumed that you were born in Brazil and then you came back to Portugal in Azores, more precisely, mainly due to your accent. But it was like a Brazilian person that has been in Portugal long enough that can already speak with Portuguese accent and really easily switch to Brazilian accent. That was something new to me as well. And yeah, touching on a point that you said, and yeah, it is quite curious that you are not either in Porto or in Lisbon, like I said in the beginning. But I'm sure there was a moment that you can pinpoint either a date or a major milestone that you saw it was not just a small project. It was actually a company and something that can have a lot of success, and it's already having a lot of success, not only in Portugal but on other countries that in Europe. And you have been going through a lot of events and already released a lot of games. Was like a game that you released that has like major success, or was a different milestone that you guys got that made you guys think like, yeah, this is it?
It to me was very clear. Back in 2017, two of my co-founders, so Foggy and Brian, they came to me saying that, hey, I mean, we've been working on something at night, and I mean, it's a game, and we just wanted to show it to you. That was the initial conversation of what would be QUDO. Um, and I mean, I saw what they were building. It seemed really cool to me. Um, so we basically polished the vertical slice a bit, and I started sending the build to every single competition that I've heard of. One of them was PlayStation Talents, which at that time was a massive contest with a lot of support from PlayStation Portugal, from PlayStation Spain. Um, and I said, you know what? I mean, it doesn't hurt. Let me send the build. And well, it ended up that we won 2 awards. We won Best Multiplayer Game and Best Game Overall. That was the moment that I believed that, hey, we have to take it serious because we have something here. Um, so I basically started looking for funding, and so we got the game QUDO, which already had a name. We got awards, but we didn't have the studio behind it. So that was when we said that yes, let's look for funding, let's build the studio around QUDO, and let's see what happens. So that was the moment when we started getting awards, and people was like, all right, this is your award, it's for QUDO, but what's the name of the studio? What's the studio behind it? It can't be only 3 friends. That was the moment that we believe that something serious have to come from it. Of course, if you look at the name of the studio, Redcatpig, it's not very serious, but at least we tried.
Well, yeah, we go to that same issue because we call ourselves like the company behind QUDO is called Blockbuster. So you'll see that we don't have like a serious name, but I'm sure that both teams
Yeah.
they take this thing really serious. And yeah, I'm sure it was tough, especially in the beginning, and it's still tough for a lot of companies, and we see a lot of studios struggling. And this actually leads to my second question for you is that with roughly a third of the industry laid off in the last 2 years, and with everything that's happening now with Xbox and such, is code development the thing keeping studios alive, especially smaller studios or indie studios, or do you think like focusing on only one game and ensuring that they will have success on that game is still the best route for smaller studios or indie or even bigger studios? Because yeah, Xbox is no smaller; it is being laying off a lot of people. Yeah, if you could
Yeah.
add on this, what is your approach? Because you have experience on that. You went from starting your own company and leading to where it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say that our business model nowadays was really built from some things that started happening to us, and I'm going to be transparent about that. So when we released QUDO in early access, I mean, we got almost 2 million downloads in less than 3 days from QUDO in early access, and for a PC game, that's massive, right?
Yeah.
So, but something that we weren't expecting happened, which was a bunch of other studios started reaching out to us, basically saying that, hey, we saw what you did with QUDO. The game is made with Unity and has a lot of physics around. It's multiplayer online, and we are very impressed, and we need your help in this project. In the beginning, I was a bit resistant to the idea of being a co-development studio, but then some of my board members and well, we kind of looked at the revenue that it's possible when you are working with a studio in the US, in the UK, especially being based in Portugal, and the margins, well, of course, were interesting for us. So then we decided to basically start creating small teams to work on external projects while we were still working in QUDO. So I can say that for us, the hybrid model works really well, and it gives us a lot of sustainability in terms of financial, and not only that, also in terms of expertise, because we have all these cool opportunities that people throw at us. Like, hey, there's this Unreal game, but we need your help on the multiplayer infrastructure. Here's a Unity game that we need to port from Nintendo Switch to iOS and Android. So there is always, even though we have a lot of experienced people now, but there's always something new. So this keeps adding value to the team. It also gives us the opportunity to, thankfully, keep scaling while other studios are laying off. Um, um, and we keep this hybrid model that to us, it's working really well in a very sustainable way, which is let's keep working on our games while we have independent teams working on external games. Um, Thanks to that, Redcatpig now has been working in Unreal games, Unity games, games for PC, games for consoles, Nintendo Switch, Xbox, iOS, Android, VR, Meta, Pico, and all of those crazy things. I believe our next project would be maybe porting Doom to a microwave. I don't know if it's done already, but we
Really?
never know. I'm joking.
I was gonna
Um, but yeah, so it's a model that I highly recommend. Of course, I mean it worked for us. I'm not sure if it worked for somebody else, but for us it worked really well.
Okay, yeah, that's good to hear. And I haven't thought about it in that manner. Like, it's not only about the revenue. Like, your team can actually get expertise because they're working on different games that require a lot of different things, and they can even see it on other games if it will work or bring ideas to your own games that you are creating. So I think that that's really
Yeah.
cool stuff. I never thought about that in that angle. But yeah, there's also a big question on the table because every year there's more games being released, especially on the indie side. And according to Steam DB, we saw that over 19,000 games were shipped on Steam. And just counting this year alone, and we are pretty much half of the year, those releases made on average under $290, which is not enough at all for a studio or even someone that's releasing a game to have a living out of building games. So they cannot be like 290 is really low, and it's being lower every single year, at least from the last 5 years. Of course, this is highly due more games being released, so the average is going to penalize the games that are actually having a link with this. But this can be quite concerning for indie studios that are trying to release their game or expecting to release their game in the coming months or even next year. How does a studio, and this is the question for you, how does a studio stand out from the noise that they know that's increasing every single year?
Um, well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've been attending a lot of events and a lot of discussions about why games are not selling or why games are selling and why those layoffs, why those shutdowns. Um, it's interesting to see that the veterans of the industry, the ones that worked on, I don't know, on the PS2 era or PS3 era, um, they all say the same thing, which is there is no more focus on what's fun for the players. There's a lot of decisions being made using Excel spreadsheets, which I'm not against. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to look at the spreadsheet and see, all right, do I have money to pay my people or not? Where do I have to cut and stuff like that? But I believe there is a lot of focus on that, and also a lot of focus on let's create clones, basically. A lot of people trying to create the new Fortnite, a lot of people trying to create the new Roblox, and there's not a lot of people trying to create different things. And maybe that's why, in my opinion, the indies are being this massive success lately. It's because, I mean, we are talking about small teams that most of them don't have funding, or I mean, they're trying to do something on their own time at night with a friend or two, and that's when the awesome ideas come. I mean, if I look at our past, when Kyo, I mean, when we were developing Kyo, we were only three. And I still believe that Kyo is a very different game, even though it's vehicle combat. I still believe that we have something there. And it's not only about the spreadsheet, it's about the game that have to be fun, but also it's about the narrative that you put around the game. I'm not saying that the game needs to be narrative driven. I'm not talking about genre. I'm talking about the whole narrative about building the game, about being transparent. And I'm going to give you one example. When we are attending events, it's very different. If I come to a possible partner that I want to, I don't know, propose a deal or whatever, I can see in their faces that it's very different when I say, "Oh, I represent Redcatpig. We are a Portuguese development studio." Then when I say I represent Redcatpig, we are an Azorian game development studio. It's very different. It's from night and day. And this narrative for us has been working really well. And then when I start diving into the perks of being an Azorian studio, such as we are closer to the US than people in Lisbon. Our time zone, it's more friendly if we are working with partners in the US, in Brazil, or whatever.
Okay.
Not only that, the American influence here in our island is very strong. The quality of life that can bring people easily to live here with us. So all of those little things, it has been calling a lot of attentions to other partners, to other studios. So I believe it's also about the narrative of who's building the game, who's behind the game. And again, at the end of the day, is the game fun? Is the game different? That's my take on it.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, it's more about not only the game itself like you play, because there are a lot of clones as you mentioned, but
Yeah.
is the game like there's like a backstory or a narrative that is distinguished from other games, even if they are similar mechanics, but they came from a different narrative and people have a different experience. Even if they at first glance that might be a bit similar, but when you actually try it, you see that you have a whole completely different experience. Okay, mate, I see what you're trying to say. But actually, I wanted to go deep down a little bit on this, and the question is pretty simple. In your view, do you think that this indie problem that we are seeing today, it's more quality driven, or it is an issue with the discoverability of these games? When what I'm trying to say this is the power of like big companies when they try to push their own games that will shadow any indie game being released. Like we can see that example. We see that a lot of indie games are pushing their launches because they know that it's gonna land on the same month of the GTA 6 that's coming up. And do you think like, and in my opinion, they are not even in the same category. So a player that's gonna buy an indie game, it's probably is not the same, or they can buy both. But the audience is different, but they still want to push their launch to a time that doesn't coincide with the same launch of GTA 6. So my question is pretty simple. Knowing that they are doing these shifts, I don't know if it is the right approach or not. I want to have your take on this. Do you think it is a quality problem major to the AI that we see a lot of games that are clones using AI slop and you see it released? That's one issue, of course. But do you think like good games are still being shadowed because of these big corporations that are selling these AAA games on the market that don't give that much chance to smaller indie studios?
I mean, the noise that money can do, it's crazy, right? I mean, if you have money for a massive marketing campaign, you can definitely make waves, and people will see your game. However, I still believe that there is ways to make those waves with creativity, not only with money. I mean, the whole GTA thing, it's crazy, and I still think it's I honestly believe that it's a bit weird that people is shifting plans and making sure that their game is going to be released after GTA, even though, for example, I don't know, it's an indie with narrative-driven mechanics or whatever, which has nothing to do with GTA. Because at the end of the day, yes, I know that um, if people that want to, I don't know, spend $70 on that month will most likely spend those $70 on GTA, 70 or 80 or 90, I don't know the price tag on that thing. But at the end of the day, if you are a fan of indie games, you will keep looking through that noise to something that calls your attention. That's what I think. You will still be deep diving on Steam or itch.io or whatever, looking for that game that will make you hooked. Um, GTA will be a success, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But we are talking about different beasts here. We are talking about a game with millions or billions of investment um, that has a mechanic that most people already know what it is, and people know what to expect, and it has its value. Now, you can't compare this with a new experience that an indie game that costs $10 will
So,
give.
in your position, would you postpone it if you are launching QUDO again? If you were planning to launch in November and GTA was planning to launch, let's say, in March, but then they postponed it to November, would you push your launch or do you keep it on the same month you were on indie developer shoes?
You know what? I mean, if you want to be different, what would you do?
Well,
I would like
if
straightforward
everyone,
say
I will launch it and I will be like using it as promotional
exactly.
content for me. Like when everyone's afraid, I'm launching. And I think like the only game that actually is deciding to launch on the probably the exact same day, and I thought it really funny, but it worked for them. It was the Barbie game. I sort of I noticed like that. I was like, okay, this is kind of
You
my
know
cup
what?
of tea.
Barbie's brave. I love
Yeah,
Barbie. She's brave.
they are
So
launching.
do it.
They don't care. Okay,
Yeah.
everyone's pushing their launch. We are launching at the same time.
Well,
Yeah, and I think
girl
that's
power.
a good content. And
Girl
yeah, I see a
power,
lot of
man.
people.
And I'm in favor of that strategy, to be honest. I mean, if you want to be different, let's be different. And I'm in favor of that, to be honest. Yeah.
So I found it really curious, but yeah, I wanted to know. I got the feeling that you'll have like a similar opinion on this, but yeah, so I found it really interesting that and a lot of indie developers were pushing their launch just because of that, and then you see out of nowhere Barbie is launching on the same month, so I found it really cool. And yeah, now speaking about big corporations and talking about like compared to small indie studios, and what are these big players like with Rockstar and like when launching GTA and so on? What are they doing wrong that like these smaller indie studios can take advantage of? Where that they are missing that's opening a room for indie developers to succeed? In your opinion, of course.
Okay, so here's the thing. People people sometimes asks me, okay, why are you developing games in Azores? Why haven't you moved to a big city? I mean, to be closer to, I mean, all the other studios and stuff. And I keep saying that, hey, if I'm making games that their main objective is to make people have fun, I need to be comfortable. I need to be having fun every single day. And I can't do that in the big cities with traffic, with, I mean, other things that we know that big cities have. And I'm saying this because I started noticing through the people that we hire that are coming from AAA studios, that are coming for those, you know, dream works that we believed in the past. I mean, we keep hearing very, very crazy stories from them of people of things that happen on those big studios, you know. And I'm not talking about only, I mean, um, um, workflows and how things are being managed. But I'm also the fact that they are now living in fear on those studios because of all the layoffs. So how the hell you gonna ask a person to create a product that will make people have fun if they are afraid that they are part of the next wave of layoffs? If they know that they're just a number, if they know that maybe their manager is gonna use AI to fire him on the next month or whatever. Um, there is no way. I mean, we are humans. There is no way you're gonna work proudly on a project with all this fear on top of them.
Yeah, makes
Thankfully,
sense.
thankfully, at Redcatpig, we've been getting a lot of people that used to work on this kind of environment, and the feedback we've been having is very positive, very very positive, in terms of uh, way of work, in terms of their daily tasks and stuff like that. What I'm
Okay.
saying is that when you are working on a healthy environment, half of the work you have to do to create a cool game is done because you feel comfortable and because you feel appreciated, because you feel that your teammates will hear your crazy idea of the next feature to put on the game you're working on. And that's something that to me is very special. So answering your question, I know I did a massive cycle, but
But you touch a lot of points.
answering your question, I believe that that's a very important point that maybe can justify all these massive games with tens of millions of investment or hundreds of millions of investment not being successful. While in the other hand, you have games with budgets of 200,000, even less, 100,000, having some kind of success. And to me, this is really interesting. And that's why me piggybacking on all of that. Um, and that's why, on the future of Redcatpig, let's say that there is different scales of internal projects that we are working on right now, and that will be announced. And it goes along with all this conversation.
Okay. That's good. And you actually touched something that it's well a completely different niche, but something like my teacher or the primary school or something said like back in the days, like the big philosopher with the big ideas, there were people that had spare time, they could think about stuff, so they had the luxury of actually investing their mind in thinking about really great stuff that we still use nowadays. That thing came from people that were only with the mentality that they need to survive another day. And like you said, if people are afraid that they're going to lose their job tomorrow and they need to make certain KPIs and such, they're probably not going to be creative. They're just going to try to complete the day, trying to see what they can have that will make him survive another day. And I think goes a lot with what you're saying. And
Yeah.
maybe that was the case with games like that we see like this year alone. We have it's not only games that are not being successful on the indie gaming side. There are games that there are breakout games that actually managed to have a lot of success. And among them, we have Mina the Aller, you have Mugenics, and especially in the last weeks, we got one that came out of nowhere called Mecha Chameleon. That being a lot of people, I know that's really pushed by creators because it is a game that creators can easily play and stream it, but was they they needed to find the way to reach those creators. So there's a certain essence that they needed that the other 19,000 that were launched didn't didn't have. Do you have an idea what was like the secret ingredient for their success or something they can replicate? Because QUDO also had a really huge success in the first week, like many millions of downloads. So maybe you have a say. I know things change from year to year. Something can work one time and not this year. But if you
Yeah.
have to say like what could make it or break it for indie games to join these really niche breakout games, what would it be?
Okay. In terms of, in regards to QUDO, we did a really interesting process towards the early access launch, which was we did a lot of a lot of playtests using Steam's tool, and through social media, people started to talk about QUDO, and of course, I mean, we spent some money in terms of paid advertisement on social media. And then we started just seeing the numbers on the playtest. I mean, people asking to playtest QUDO through the Steam platform, just raising and raising and raising and getting bigger. And for us, it was about that. Was using all the tools that the Steam platform have available for the playtests. Then at the day of launch on early access, everyone was waiting for the game. And something very interesting that happened, we found out that on Reddit, there people were talking about the fact that there was a QUDO giveaway during that weekend, and thousands of people reacted to this announcement on Reddit, and it wasn't us. So apparently there is communities that are looking for giveaways and new games and multiplayer games and stuff like that are always on top of it. So that helped us a lot, Reddit, and I wasn't expecting that at all. Um, but in terms of the other games, I honestly believe that there is a combination of several factors. One of them is the fact that, well, maybe they have something really, really weird and different, and that's what draws the attention of people nowadays. I mean, and at the end of the day, I'm a 47-year-old guy, 47, and when I have people here at the studio, sometimes pitching concepts to me, such as romance games and stuff like that, I'm like, wait, what? Does this sell? And then I start seeing the numbers, and I'm like, what the hell? Dude, this is crazy. So romance game sells now? And so it's very important to have people around you that is very aware of the new tendencies, of the new genres. And I believe that those small teams, they are very aware of what's out there. They are not dependent on this fancy corporate marketing team that are doing market research or whatever. They just play. They just know what's different. They keep talking with friends on platforms, and they know exactly what their friends want. To me, that's the main difference between the small teams that are doing great stuff to the big corporate machines out there. I mean, let's be honest. Devs from all those big studios, they don't talk to their players. They don't. I mean, there's so many layers between them that they don't know what the players want. And that was a massive difference. Something that we noticed when we released QUDO on QUDO's Discord. We started seeing a bunch of people coming in, and they were talking to each other. And one of the main conversations was, "Hey, do you know that the actual devs are here and can actually talk to them? It's
I
not
was
a
not
month.
expecting that.
It's the devs. I mean, we can talk to Brian, the lead dev. We can talk to Foggy, the lead artist, and we can even talk to Marco, the CEO. They're here, and that's the fact that we don't have all those layers facilitates a lot for us to get to know the public, get to know the market. And I believe that that's one of the main differences.
For sure, and I'm certain that they felt heard and something that they feel like they are part of a community, and they not that they will make the decisions for the game, but they know that the devs are paying close attention to what the community is saying about the game, and they are not only appreciate that, but they take it into consideration. I think for a gamer itself, it's an amazing feeling knowing that in some way they are influencing the future of the game by playing a lot of time and testing in firsthand, and even based on their experience, they can not only tell the team but discuss with other players that might feel the same way. Yeah, that's quite interesting. I think that's one of the main things that have success, because and I see that even recently because yeah, Mega Chameleon, the idea of the game it's not new. We saw with games like Gary Small, like you need to disguise it as an object and people gonna find you. Like it happened before, but sometimes like a little twist can bring a lot of attention and. The team behind it is does it different, does it directly to the community. Like I remember even doing the pandemic times, like with Among Us, it's like they bought like a game like Dawn of Salem, but they give them their own twist, and people loved it and they felt that they were part of something. So I think your approach, especially for indie games, making sure that they are not developing for an empty void, they are developing and getting in touch directly with the community. And you guys have tremendous success, especially having a Reddit post and people talking a lot. And it's not promoted
Yeah.
by us because a lot of developers do that. Like they're trying to create subreddits, they're trying to create posts to incentivize people talking about their game. But for people doing it organically, that's an amazing work from you guys. And especially nowadays, if it was right now with ChatGPTs and LLMs, that will be like
Yeah.
that will like multiply a lot in terms of reach for people to know like indie games coming out that have cool mechanics. So that would be really good. And well, I want to leave you with one last question. It is simply because we want to know first what are the short plans for Redcatpig? What can people get excited about Redcatpig on the next months, and what they can do to follow your work and follow what you guys doing, and also support you guys.
Okay, so there's a lot of things on the horizon for us. We keep onboarding really cool external projects. I mean, we keep getting more and more amazing partners with us, and um, attention to the fact that I'm not calling them clients. We don't have clients. We have amazing partners that trust us to be a part of their teams and trust us to be part of the development of their amazing projects. We have more and more coming our way thanks to our amazing BD team, of course. But we are also scaling up the production of some of our internal um, games, some of our IPs. So we are definitely moving QUDO to full release. I know it has been several years, but those years were really important for us to have a dedicated team fine tuning the game, but also making sure that the studio itself it grows on a very sustainable way. So this was very important for us. And come on, if GTA can take all those years, we can also take all those years. We are not. um, but and other than that, yes, I mean we keep working on HoverShock, and there's more games to be announced, more Redcatpig games to be announced,
Are, are
and
they
this
going to
will
be
happen very
announced
soon.
at Gamescom? Is there like a something to announce at Gamescom?
I don't think so because we have some fine tuning in terms of uh, timings and concepts that have to be closed. But there's a lot of interesting stuff coming up, and we'll definitely make sure that everyone is aware of it. But we want to be responsible doing all these announcements. We want to make sure that the community have the right information and we can actually deliver in um, what we inform people. But always, and something that I keep telling people here is, all right, Redcatpig is growing. Yes, we are nowadays we are the biggest independent studio in Portugal, um, and we want to make sure that we don't lose the indie mindset, even though we are very responsible, even though we keep delivering amazing products with our friends, with our partners. But at the end of the day, we are still indies. We like to be indie. We like to make sure that people feel at ease proposing games to us and creating crazy concepts. And we keep that mindset definitely.
Scaling with an indie mentality.
Yes, yes, it's not
That's
easy. The management team keeps bugging me in terms of processes and stuff because, well, the size of the team demands control, of course. But we keep trying to find a common ground between those two sides, and so not diving too much in the dark side, but we have to be adults here.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, well, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, Marco, for being here. If you have any last words for people that are watching, you will be the first Dev Talk. It's a new segment. We usually do videos with growth tips for indie developers, and we also showcase the games that are listed on our platform. And yeah, any last words? Otherwise, we are gonna close it.
No, I mean, I appreciate the invite once again. It's a pleasure to talk a bit about our experience, and to me, it's very important that especially Portuguese teams know that anything is possible. There's amazing content coming out from small teams here in Portugal, and I mean, reach out to us, talk to us, present your project. Also, if you're looking for a position, reach out to our website. There is a section there for submissions. We, like I said, we keep scaling. We keep looking for amazing people. So we never know. I mean, you can be the next Redcatpig.
That's a really good information, especially with the recent layoffs. Some people are laying off, some people want to hire good talent. That's good to know. And yeah, you heard it here. QUDO's full release might be coming soon. They are also working with HoverShock and other games that Marco hasn't mentioned yet, but they want to be accountable with their announcements, which makes total sense. You don't want to be announcing a game that's being postponing every single time just because, and we are not going to name names here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Marco. Yeah, have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, Diogo. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.